Hey, Robert, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm like nervous today.
Uh-oh. It's not because of me, is it? I'm not that scary looking.
No, it's not because of you.
Maybe Eric's been getting on your nerves lately,
Oh,
like he sometimes does.
he always gets on my nerves.
Well, what do you think it is?
I just get that way sometimes before a session because sometimes there'll be like a lot of energy around me,
Hmm.
and then it kind of amps up like my nervous system.
Oh, yeah, I can
So then I
imagine.
so then I'll get nervous and stuff.
Yeah. So getting
Yeah,
all that out through channeling is going to help.
it always does. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Because I find it will build up. You know.
Well, I want to say hi to my boy. Hi, Eric.
He said, "Hi, Mom."
How are you doing?
He said, "Well, I'm always fantastic."
I
He said,
know. Who wouldn't be over there?
I've been talking about you to
Really?
everybody over here."
Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, they're all lies. Tell
He's
me about that.
laughing.
Tell me.
He's laughing.
What have you
He
been
said,
saying?
we just been talking about how wonderful you are.
Oh, that's so
How
sweet.
he said there's not many human beings that can experience the loss you've experienced and be able to do what you've done.
Yeah. Well, it's not easy.
You know,
I can
I
tell you
was
that.
now, of course, this is me now talking, Robert. I was talking about Eric earlier today to a friend of mine
Hmm.
about like how much like he changed my life. It's
That's
just
so awesome.
it's just strange to I'm sure for some people to hear that. But I mean, you know how it was when you first met me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty frail, and
Yeah.
things were pretty bad.
Yeah.
I had health issues and stuff, and I was telling this friend of mine that, it's like like he talked me through the whole thing about how things were going to get better,
Mm.
and and he had all this patience with me because I can be. I'd gone through so much that I
Yeah.
kind of had gone into my shell, so it was difficult to get through to me,
Yeah.
and I still have issues with that. But like he I just never experienced a person like that in spirit, that was like that. I
Yeah.
mean, everything changed for the better, and everything he's ever said to me has come true
That's
for
something.
for me personally.
Wow.
So I mean, so I guess the whole reason I'm saying that is because, we had one session where, we were telling everybody to express their appreciation for you, and that's part of what Eric was talking about earlier. He was talking about how much everyone appreciates you,
Yeah.
but I think now maybe we should put something in there, like have people just say what Eric has done to help them.
Yeah. He has transformed a lot of people's lives. I mean,
Yeah, I
three,
mean,
180. I almost said change their lives 360 degrees.
well, that'd be back to the start.
I know, but okay, 180.
I used to say that though, and then I realized, oh wait, that's the
I
back.
know. I know.
But yeah, I mean, if people could just put that in the comments. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and it's in line with what we're going to talk about today because Eric's wanting to talk about love.
Yeah, I thought that'd be a perfect segue
Yeah.
into what did he say? He said, uh, "What is love really?"
Right, right. What is love really? What does it do? You
Stop
know,
growling, Bella.
that kind of stuff. You know,
Bella's fierce.
she's a fierce young lady.
Oh yeah,
Talk about love. She's like a little love bucket.
I know.
I love her. So Eric said, Mom, love is the thing that we're all made of. He said, and ultimately, if you want to look at it like as something physical, it's the thing that creates the structure of everything. And that structure is not possible to be created without connection. You have to
Mm,
have connection, right? And those connections then enable the structure to form, either that being conscious thoughts or physical form or whatever. It's 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 um, it's the enabler of everything.
wow.
Without it, you would not exist. We call it love as human beings because we associate that with connection to family, with romantic connections, all those things. He says ultimately, what's that doing? It's forming a structure, right?
Wait, I'm trying to text people to be quiet. Hey, you guys, be quiet out there. I'm having a session for the love of freaking God. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But he said, love itself, it forms a structure, right? So he says when we talk about the different labels that we put on love as human beings, there's familial love, with your family, with your friends, there's romantic love. But he said, what is all that doing? It's creating a structure, right?
Yeah.
It's creating a structure, a social structure in that instance, right? But it's also the thing that enables everything in life to exist. And it does so unconditionally. It doesn't say that this can exist and that cannot, right?
Yeah.
It's just ultimately what enables everything, you know? About a year or so ago, Eric and them, I was asking them this question, what is love? Because I was just wondering, because it was always such an abstract thing,
Yeah.
And he said, he said, well, I'll show you. And that's where the whole structure thing came from. He showed me this like this whole network of like cords and things just like running everywhere, right? And if you're looking at it up close, it just looks like a bunch of cords going everywhere. But then they kind of zoomed out, and they were like a silver color, like with white to them, just for the visual, I guess. And then when they zoomed out, you could see that it was forming something, It was really fascinating.
Forming what?
I mean, it just depended on the circumstances. In that instance, it looked like the universe for me. That's what it looked like.
Okay.
But, and I've seen pictures before where, they've shown how the universe will look very similar to the brain networking and stuff, and there are all those different kinds of things. And Erik says, and that's the real cool thing about it too, is if you look in the universe itself, you'll see a pattern emerge, right? How everything seems to follow a certain kind of pattern, right? He said, I think he might have.
Energetic patterns, yeah.
It's energetic patterns that we see in physical forms. I think he might have said this before, because I know he and I have talked about this, but about how, if you look at an atom, it looks like a solar system, a little mini solar system, right? And you can scale that up to the universe, and then of course that looks like a brain, right? Brain system for human beings. It's just fascinating. And Erik says all those kinds of things, you would not be able to recognize the patterns at all if you didn't have something to create that structure, which is love.
Yeah.
What we call love, anyway.
Yeah, everything is so highly patterned. Even our bodies, they look amorphous or whatever, but down to the atoms, that it's highly patterned. Everything is highly patterned. All energy is highly patterned. It's got its own very specific pattern of vibrational frequency and everything. So it's a lot of physics behind this. Well, there's physics behind everything.
Absolutely. And Erik says, one other thing too I want to talk about, Mom, is how when we connect with someone, a loved one, a pet, whatever, even a material thing, Erik says the hardest thing for people to get beyond is the loss of that.
Yeah.
Erik says that is a very hard lesson. A lot of people, everybody goes through it, right?
Yeah, sure.
He says, and he said what creates that grief, of course, is it's a natural response, right?
Yeah.
To a connection being transformed, right? But Erik says what will perpetuate a person staying stuck in their grief is their attachment to what used to be.
Yeah.
So he says that the best way for people to get beyond that is they have to recognize, or they have to see that attachment in a different way, not as what was, but what was given to them, and then to connect to appreciation of that.
Well, yeah, because, before, early on, and for a long time, it was like missing what used to be and thinking about Erik as a child and thinking about our different, very intimate conversations together and our hugs and everything. And then I would also think about what will never be, grandchildren, a good career, etc. So, but then now I'm in this place where I know I still have a relationship with him. It's just different, but it's just as real, just as real as the one we had together, when he was alive.
Yeah, and Erik says, and the thing that, when we go into the appreciation of it, he says that can help to not necessarily completely get rid of the pain of the not being able to physically hold that person again.
Oh, yeah. That'll never go completely
away. Yeah, it'll just never go away, right? Because, especially from mother to child or parent, but especially mother to child, Erik says, that connection, for you as a human being feels like it was just completely cut, right? Yeah. From our side, it's not that way. We still have the connection always. Yeah. And so that creates that hurt, even when you do connect to the appreciation, though, makes it to where you can find some hope and to see a brighter side to things and to see how that person's life, Erik says, in my case, my life, has changed so many people's lives. Out of all this tragedy, he said, that happened,
Mm.
something, that's like my favorite line that my guide said, something beautiful came of it,
Yeah.
like for a lot of people, right?
Including Erik, Erik, you're
Yeah.
happy now for the first time. Well, maybe not for the first time, but, you know,
Eric says I'm just unencumbered. In life
yeah,
I was encumbered.
yeah,
And I'm not encumbered anymore, so I can be who I really am. I couldn't be that way in life. Not when I became a teenager. When I hit adolescence, things started to change.
yeah,
And when I was a kid, that's how you see me now, right?
yeah.
The way I was, that little goofy
You
kid
were so happy all the time,
all the
just
time.
happy.
Eric says that's the way I am now. We go
That's
back
good.
to the way we were as children,
Yeah.
right? But yet we still have this side of us that is like an adult.
Mm.
Eric said,
But
and that's another key, when it comes to love and everything and creating connections, is you have to learn how to meld those two sides,
mm.
that childlike side with that wise adult side, the experienced adult side.
Yeah, I see both of them in you. But yes, the realization that we still have a relationship, even though it's different, and that you are happy and that you are transforming so many lives, including Robert's, has really gone a long way to heal me. I mean, not completely, of course, it will probably never happen until I cross over. But yeah, I want to suggest that to everybody who has loss of an animal, animal companion or a loved one, that you can continue to have that relationship. They're not gone forever. They just
Yeah.
don't have a body, and they're in some different dimension. And
Hmm.
that's the long and short of it.
Yeah. I mean, Eric was quoting something that my guides had said to me a long time ago when I was a kid. They said that, for me, but for every human being, life is painful. It's difficult. There's going to be a lot of loss, a lot of things that you don't want to accept. But if you're going to get through that life, the lives that you live and the one you're living now, you have to see that loss. You have to find something in it that was valuable, and you have to take that loss and turn it into something beautiful.
Yeah.
And that value that you find in the loss will be the beautiful thing. There's always value in it.
There's always value in pain.
Absolutely.
Yet even a painful childhood. From my uh, childhood full of abuse, I learned how to become more assertive and more compassionate, and I became a, a much better mother than I probably would have otherwise. I'm super hyper nurturing, which annoys my kids too. To no end, especially when I still ask them to sit in my lap. They don't like that very much, especially when it's in front of friends. But whatever. So mom's right. No, I heard that maybe it's just sons, but a mother, you can always find the son's DNA in her body after she gives birth or after she carries him.
And yeah, I read
So
that.
yeah, it's
And the mother's DNA is also, I mean, the son's DNA is also found in the mother.
that's what I said. So, but the
And
mother's DNA is also in each cell of the son
son,
also. Yeah,
mm,
it's so
yeah,
strange.
it's I think it was the
The
mitochondria.
mitochondrial DNA.
I think so.
Wow, is it not with daughters then?
Well, because I saw the same article, and I don't think they were able to like tell with daughters
Oh,
because
okay,
there's too much similarity, I guess. But with males, they could tell.
so maybe that's. I don't know if that would affect the grief or not.
Yeah, because Jillian is chiming in. Eric's uh,
Girlfriend.
girlfriend.
Yeah,
She says that the female DNA is also integrated with the mom.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just humans don't have the technology yet to be able to tease out what the differences are.
I see.
Yeah, they're
Okay,
they're very subtle for human technology right now.
okay.
But there's always a connection, she said. That's for mother to child. She said every human being though you encounter, it changes who you are. A piece of them becomes part of you.
Okay.
And uh, yeah, every interaction you have with every person, every creature, everything you go through in life, it changes who you are. And by having encountered it, you create a connection to it.
Okay. They say that love is all there is, and that there is nothing else. Is
That's
that
right.
true?
Yeah, Eric says, yeah, that's right, Mom. He
But
said
they
that's all.
say they say God is always love, like God's source. I
Mhm.
mean, is all there is. So does that mean God's source is the same energy as love energy?
Eric
One and the
said that's
same?
right. Eric's like thumbs up. He's like, that's right, Mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
They get a
And
couple of points for that.
he said you get a gold star.
Yay!
uh, uh, he said something else too he wanted to talk about, which is in line with love, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, why do people call their soul a light? Why do they
Yeah.
see light?
Hmm.
Why do they associate things with light?
Hmm.
When they die, why do they see a bright light?
Yeah.
Erik says, you know what? He says, it's really very closely connected to how human beings are. He said, human beings are drawn to light.
Hmm. We're
As
like
a,
moths with legs and arms.
right.
Well,
He
they have
said, you
legs and
know,
arms, I guess.
he
But
said, and ultimately in the universe, it's like that with all life too. But he says, you know, they're drawn to light, right? You know, he said, think about it. If you're, you know, from like a, I don't know, evolutionary or anthropological perspective, he said, Mom, you know, you need light to have light because if you're out there in this big open space and you don't have a lot of light and you can't see well at night, well, something could get you, right?
yeah.
So he said, you know, we see safety in light,
Mm.
right? But he says, though, as it relates to a soul and energetic level and a non-physical level,
Mm-hmm.
light itself for us is a visual representation of all the energy patterns merged as one.
Mm-hmm.
So visually, that looks white. It looks
Oh,
like
I see.
bright white color, right? Um, so he said that's the reason. He said, "Isn't that pretty fucking cool?"
That's cool. So is love light then too, or how do
He
light
said,
and love?
"Yeah." He said for human beings, we'll call it. They're synonymous. Light and love, they're the same. Because
Okay.
he said all these words I'm using, they're all unique to what human beings have created. It's what we know those things to be.
All right. So
Other species aren't going to call them those things though.
all
But
right.
they
So when people email me and say love and light, so and so, that's a redundant. That's redundant. That's
he
like
said
saying shrimp scampi, shrimp shrimp,
right.
love and love, light and light.
He said that's right, Mom.
Okay. Sorry, I
He
interrupted.
said so. He said so. You can think of it this way, Mom, because he said it's really actually a subtle difference. Love is like the thing that created the light. So think of
Okay.
love as the abstract and light as the closest thing to the physical or the form side, right?
Okay.
You know, because he said you can see light, but you can't really see love,
Okay.
right?
And
That's a good. I like that. That's pretty cool.
that is really cool because light is a waveform, and when you create reality, the waveform collapses. The Schrodinger equation collapses, and it becomes a particle. And particles are the building block, of course, for reality. So we can get all technical if we want.
Get all
I
science
don't.
fiction like
I don't want.
or science fact
Maybe
like.
another couple of sips of coffee will do it. But
By the way, I started to grow a beard.
I know. Didn't I say at the beginning I liked it?
Oh, you
Or
did?
maybe I was thinking about it
Oh, okay.
and didn't. It looks really good. Everybody who thinks Robert is hot, give this video a like.
That's well, yeah.
Oh, he's gonna blush.
I like lost my train of
I
thought.
bet you did, of course.
But I was trying to switch it like, well, do that for Erik and his mom too.
No, don't worry about it. You deserve just as much love. One more question on the love
Oh well,
subject.
yeah. Erik's
Oh,
talking
what?
about something. He was saying sometimes people have a hard time accepting love. He's using me as an
Yeah,
example.
I do too.
I
I
hate it when
do.
he does that.
Well,
Uh,
that's a good question. Why do what can people do who don't have love in their life? And also, what can people do to be better about accepting love?
yeah. Okay. Um, he said, well, here's the thing about people not having love in their life.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, he said, or not, he said sometimes rather, it's got to do with them not being able to see it,
Mm.
right? Because they're
Yeah,
looking for it from a source that can't provide it.
yeah.
And
For example,
so he says, if I'll use you as an example, Mom. You know, you were raised in a family where your parents couldn't provide that to you,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Erik said you could have ended up in a situation where you know you didn't have these sisters and stuff to support you through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that made it easier for you though to see that there was some love, right? Because
Yeah.
you had it with your sisters, you couldn't get it from your parents. But there could be an individual who's an only child and they were raised that way,
Mm-hmm.
right? He said what a child will do instinctively most of the time is they will start to seek out people outside the family to provide that for them, right?
Okay.
But what adults can sometimes do is they forget that. because they either sometimes consciously and most of the time unconsciously think, well, I have to just do this on my own, right? And then they hold all this resentment inside because they didn't have the family that they wanted.
Yeah.
And they didn't, get the support from friends and things like that, Erik says. And you can't blame people for that either, because, if you're an only child, for instance, and you don't have anything, mom, to model
Yeah.
what that is, you don't even know where to go and look for it, right?
Oh, yeah.
But Erik says those are opportunities for those people to start to go inside and to seek, right?
Yeah.
For some people, that's what they go and they do. And they do it in their own unique way. Extroverts will go out and start doing physical things in the environment,
Sometimes promiscuous behavior is a
sometimes,
way
yeah.
that they react, unfortunately.
Yeah, sometimes, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
And then an introvert may go inside and start, doing things like writing poetry or whatever. Yeah. But Erik says, like you mentioned the promiscuity, he said sometimes that is, you know, um, a way of like, what were you saying, Erik? It's a way of processing self-destructive behavior.
Yeah.
You're going through the physical act of being self-destructive. You start to do things that tear your life down. And then you start coming to a place where Erik says you have a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, for some people. Now, some people go all the way down to
the grave.
To the end of, to the grave. But Erik says ultimately on a soul level, though, you've learned something from that.
So if you're in a loveless life, I guess it must be very hard for you to love yourself.
Erik says it is. And Erik says that's the journey that we go through, is we start off with, this place of nothingness to us. And we go through this whole journey that feels to us like it's been nothingness. But when we get to the end of that journey as a human being, we'll look back over our life and see that it was showing us that we were something and that we weren't surrounded by nothingness. We just couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
Because the patterns that, had been instilled within us blinded us from that.
So I guess the problem with people being uncomfortable accepting love, like you and I, like you and me, excuse me. I'm a grammar Nazi, but it must have to do have something to do with not fully accepting or loving yourself.
Absolutely. He said, what I was going to say, Mom, is you don't feel worthy of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much not totally loving yourself.
Right, absolutely. And Erik says, and when we go through the journey, right, and we have a lot of hardship and stuff, and we look back over our lives, we'll see that all of those things were pushing us towards, or the experiences we were having were trying to get us to see that we are worthy of love. Erik says, when you get beaten down and you get victimized and you feel completely worthless and stuff, there's a part of you unconsciously that knows you're worth more than that, right? And it's those experiences are trying to call your attention to the fact that you don't deserve that treatment, right? Yeah. And it's up to you as a conscious individual to become aware of that. Now, sometimes other people have to come in and help you to become aware of that. Sometimes it's friends that come into your life. Sometimes it's spirit. Sometimes it's a pet.
Yeah.
So
what is
because we all need help. We're not alone.
Well, what is one piece of advice before we close for a person who doesn't see the love around them, or who doesn't feel like they have love in their lives? What is one thing they can do? Buy a goldfish.
Erik said, what could I tell them to do? He says, he's like doing like this.
Looks very professorial.
There's
probably more than one thing. That's probably why you're having trouble.
He said, well, that's the thing, Mom. He says, ultimately, there's just not one thing that you can say to a person, right? He said, I would just ask people when they can't do that is to start asking yourself, well, what do I want, right? If I'm craving an ice cream that day, right? And then I won't allow myself to have that ice cream, you're saying you don't deserve it. You don't deserve a little bit of joy, right? Erik says, do nice things for yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of people who don't feel worthy of love, they never do nice things for themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
So they need to start loving themselves by treating themselves with respect and love, basically.
Yes, he
And
said.
then maybe the friends will come, the lovers will come, the love
It's
will shine in their light life.
Eric says, absolutely that's a part of it, he said. Um, he said, and you have to take these small steps in order to attract more of that stuff, like you just said, Mom. The loving friends and all of that. And Eric says, there's a lot of truth also to, you smile even when you don't feel like smiling. Eric says because over time that starts to build up all of this positive momentum. A smile, Eric says, it's like turning on a switch to like happy juice, right?
Yeah, it
So,
does. It helps you release endorphins,
right, Eric says, so when you do that,
like
right,
a big shot of morphine.
yeah, you're
Woo!
pulling in an energy source that is bringing more of that kind of energy to you. Just a smile,
Yeah,
right? And just doing nice things for yourself, Eric
yeah,
says. So these are all things that are saying to you that you're worthy. And Eric says eventually you'll get to a point when you fully realize how worthy you are, that you won't put up with these people who are coming into your life that are not treating you right. Right? Eric
good,
says you'll kick them to the curb.
good,
You'll tell them to get the fuck out.
good.
And because you'll start to recognize that the actions they're taking may cause you pain.
Hmm.
You'll no longer be numb to the pain,
Yeah,
right? You'll recognize that, oh, that pain means I need to take action.
yeah. And you're not, you don't deserve the pain.
Right.
Anything else you want to say about love? We could do like 3 or 4 sessions on this, I swear. But before we
Well, for,
close,
for me personally, love is like my favorite subject.
I know, I
Love to
know.
talk about it. Yeah, Eric says, Mom, I'm all good with that. He said, we covered quite a bit with with this topic.
Okay, we can always come back and talk about it some more if you have any other good little pearls for us. Love pearls, the
He said,
love doctor, the love guru. That's what you
yeah,
are.
he's playing Barry White in my head.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
You got it together, baby.
you guys are together. All right. Well,
Yeah, Jillian would be a good one for the love thing too.
okay. We can interview her about that one day. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, Eric. I love you, and I'll talk to you in a little bit. Thank you so much, Robert. You know I love you too.
and I love you. Eric's going like this. Mwah, 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 mwah,
He
mwah.
does that, doesn't he? I love you.
He said, I love you too, Mom.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.